So, as you may know, I like to spend my evenings reflecting on things that came up during the day, and tonight I just wanted to invite you into that space. So feel free to get yourself a cup of tea, cup of coffee, sit with me, play this in the background, share your thoughts, whatever. So today, I did a journal entry about how reality first and foremost shifts within you first, that can absolutely be catalysed by your external environment. I wanted to start this off by reading parts of the journal entry that I did. And it goes, have you ever met anyone? They're in front of you, but they see the world much more differently. They do not see red at traffic lights, but rather the colour that's before green. They do not see the glass as half full or half empty, but rather they see history, molecules, space and health within the water. They do not see the world as you do. It's as though they're tuned into another frequency while interacting with the same thing. And I feel like a lot of us can relate to that. I'm sure there's been people, or even yourself, and you've experienced the world much more differently when the world within you is different. So, yeah, it was a very fascinating observation I had, and the thing that really encouraged me to write about this was an experience I had a few weeks ago when I really wanted to go to university that day and during an open seminar, but in the morning I was free, so I really wanted to go to a place called South Kensington, which, if you're not native to London, it's really popular and really rich, and I just really wanted to spend a lot of time there. So I went to South Kensington and walked around the area and past Royal Albert Hall and the music schools and Imperial College, which is quite an elite university in London. And I was walking around and I felt so right. It felt so right to be there. It was as though the place around me was attuned with my current frequency, the frequency which feels authentic to my being. But I noticed when I came back home that it was not the place that I remember, but the energy around it. I do believe there's multiple different realities, and I saw a very beautiful quote the other day, which I can't remember verbatim, so I'll try to put it here or something. But it read something like how when you have a dream or a desire, it is you viewing what you're doing in another reality. It's already yours. And this is one thing I find quite interesting, and I spoke about in my journal entry, about manifestation and the younger generation. And I've seen so many things on YouTube and so many people talk about how I manifested £200,000, how I manifested this career and this thing, and you know, it's not a bad thing at all, but it's the approach that's quite interesting to me. Manifestation is not the lack of anything, and I feel like a lot of people are, when they're manifesting things, are like pulling new things into the reality, like a new toy that didn't have before. It is not that, it's the softening, it's the delayering, it's knowing that you already have it. The simple desire says a lot, you know. I've spoken about this before. I have had a very long period of having agoraphobia and emetophobia, which is a form of anxiety disorder which makes you not leave a certain area for a lot of different reasons. And I've always known since I was younger that I'm going to travel. I'm absolutely going to travel. It's part of me. I know I will. And having that blockage there, having that fear of traveling, just reaffirmed that it's absolutely going to happen. There's no doubt, you know. So when I eventually started going out, I was not manifesting overcoming it, but rather I was just taking off the layers that stopped me from having that. And it's my own layers, my own internal world. So I wrote down here something about manifestation as well, and how it's a lot of interesting perspectives about it, but also the fact that you're interested in it says a lot. So yeah, I wrote down that onto manifestation is not about pulling something into your reality. It is about, firstly, understanding that you already have it. Just like in a video game, when there is a faint line, compass between your character and the thing that you are after, your vision, your dreams and desires connect to you via this line. The only difference is you don't need to run towards it. It is already yours. No matter if you go off and do a side quest, it is always yours. Manifestation isn't rooted in the masculine, go and get it energy, but rather it is a time to unpick yourself apart. Do not run towards a radio station. You just need to align your frequency. It is all within. So I really do believe in that tuning, the inner fork, the inner change, the inner understanding of your frequency. You know, the first thing is to acknowledge where you currently are, you know. And it's also understanding, is it escapism? And what does that escapism mean? Is it an escapism because I know I deserve better? Or an escapism because of whatever else? It's a very interesting thing. I feel like it's a lot of inner work. Reality, I do believe, shifts within you first. But yeah, I do feel like if you are compelled to watch these sort of things, it's already part of your destiny. It must be. I was thinking a lot about my life recently and how it can spew off into all these different places, all these different trajectories, you know. There's so much that can happen. And I'm grateful to be in a space where I can understand and see all these different realities and choose which one I want to go with. And also not be attached to it. Because that can change at any moment. Every moment you're changing, you know. I said this to myself before I went to sleep last night. Time is an interesting thing for me. This is a side thing, but if I remember, I'm going to say I'd be great, but I was thinking about how time is such an interesting concept because the past doesn't exist, the future doesn't exist, it's only the present. But in the present, I see evidence of the past. So surely the past must have existed for this present to exist. But in the present, it's the only thing that has things that are alive. I find it very interesting going into history museums, and I've been there quite a few to test this, but walking in it and seeing things from years and years ago in the present is the strangest thing for me. Because I'm looking at something that was created years ago into the eyes of a picture that was drawn years and years and years prior to my birth and the birth of those around me. But in that moment, it's very much alive within me. I'm the thing that gives it life because I'm observing it. And someone else looks at it and they bring it to life because they're the one observing it. It's all within you. Always, all within you. And I find that very fascinating. So if the past doesn't exist, but there's evidence of the past, and the present is all that is because it's the only thing that's alive, then you have the power of turning the past into the present by giving it your observation. It's fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. But I was talking to myself last night about how I hope to wake up in the morning and I snap into the reality that's most aligned with my being. And I feel like I know that it's going to happen. Of course it will. And it's going to happen naturally. I say snap into it because I know that I'm already going to be snapped into it. You're changing multiple different realities, all these different moments. You're in a different timeline, different wavelength. You know, your frequency changes all the time. You're tuned into different stations. It's so fluid. It's so... You move through it and you don't get attached to it. It's a very beautiful thing that comes with that. So I do find this quite interesting how a lot of life does exist through you. There's an interesting thing as well which I find to be quite fascinating, which is the concept of death and how a lot of us like to imagine something in the afterlife, you know, and there very much maybe, but an eternal stillness that actually sounds quite nice, but it's because we're not used to going to sleep and not waking up, not used to being completely unconscious. You know, I find it very interesting, and I find people like this quite beautiful. Those who are open to different perspectives and different ways of thinking. You know, I think there's so much beauty. You know, the masculine approach to manifestation, there's beauty in that. I do find it very beautiful, you know, having those vision boards out. I love a vision board, you know. Doing what you can do. I also wrote something quite interesting in here as well, how manifestation is not passive. Neither is it active, but it's a mixture of both. I'm trying to read something here which I wanted to write. Yeah, it's neither passive nor is it active. It's actually a balance of both. It's an understanding that you've already got it. And I found that to be quite interesting. But of course, your external environment does influence it. I do have this quite interesting thing I think about. I'm rambling a lot, but that's the whole point. I was thinking a lot about free will. And free will to me is such an interesting concept because part of me believes I do have it, and the other part doesn't believe in free will at all. Because when everything was created, it must have been encoded in that, everything. Because if patterns exist, and patterns can continue to exist, and mathematically you can trace it and you can trace what the next pattern's going to be, then surely it must have been predetermined. But also, there are patterns that exist that you can't trace. You know, there's so much that we're still understanding. So, does free will exist in some parts and not the whole? Or do we have the illusion of free will? Because time and space, if you look on Earth from like light years away, you're actually looking into the future version because of how light travels, but it's the exact same present. So does the future exist? Or if you close your eyes and blink, you see a different future every minute, or every second, or every blink, or whatever. Because we're constantly changing. So in that does that mean as a collective we change everyone's future like a butterfly effect? Or is it simply merely through... Because there are theories that all of this is a simulation. And I very much like those theories. Because with the emergence of AI becoming more mainstream, there's more conversation about it. And there's so much I don't know about it. But I do find it interesting thinking about how all of this could be a simulation. I do really like the show, The Truman Show. It's a movie that really makes you think about reality. And speaking of which, I was really thinking about how one of my favourite movies is called The Dreamers, because it's got Lewis Carroll in it. Louis? Oh my goodness, I forgot his name. But there's a guy in there who my friend introduced me to, and I really love this movie because the ending is so ambiguous. The whole entire movie is quite... it's focused on themes that are quite skewed towards the adult audience. And it's quite abstract, but the ending is so ambiguous and it forces you to watch it and your own subconscious beliefs get painted onto it. So based on what you currently believe in that moment, gets painted onto the end scene. Because there's no definitive right or wrong answer, but based on what you've experienced and how you perceive the world, you will acknowledge whether you think the ending was right or wrong, and you'll... Based on what you've experienced in your reality, the ending will have a meaning based off that. So you're confronted by yourself through art and media, which I find to be quite interesting. I think I've rambled enough. Oh yeah, I rambled enough. There's a lot of interesting things I think come with reflecting on reality. Reality does first and foremost, I believe, shift within you, but your external environment can absolutely influence that reality shift, either catalyze or either slow it down. It is a balance between the go-getting, the passive, and also the active. Yeah. I hope you enjoyed a cup of tea, if you made it this far. Thank you.